thanks everybody for coming tonight. I know Noah he's doing some things with AP here, so he's here as well. So hopefully everybody on council had a chance to look on the flip side of the meeting announcement. I put in just a very brief background for those that aren't here today. We've been talking about the fire code concept with Chief Yance from NISA for a couple months now. We've had two really good discussions at city council meetings, and at the last meeting it was decided to have a work session to kind of dig into the topic a little bit more, and we decided not to do that at our goal setting, feeling like it was worthy of its own session. So what I attempted to do was go through the notes that we had talked about from the last two discussion items and try to focus the discussion on what are the really big questions that we need to talk about at this work session. So I forwarded those on to Chief Yance, and you will see he passed out some information today that includes an outline with some answers to those. The way I envision this working is that we basically would just kind of take each question and turn it over to Chief Yance to really dig into how the program would work, how it would be administrated, how they would staff it, what kind of costs we're looking at, and then what the appeals process would be. And then the final note is I did mention in here that there may be other questions, so don't feel like you can't ask other questions. Like I said, I was just trying to distill all of the comments into like 5, 6, 7 broad topics. So with that, I will just for the public, one of the first questions was that council had been asking is how is NISA really going to manage the program and implement it? And so with that, I will ask Chief Yance to take it away.
Okay, how kind of this all started was I was actually at some inspections that were being done in the village of Weberville, and was getting called from McKenna, who they use for their building inspections, and he was like, we get into these situations and there's more and more threats, hazardous type threats. And it was actually Takata, the company that does the airbags, that has the recall going on. They were looking for storage space, and so they rented some storage space in the village, and the building needed to be checked out. His comment to me, Jim Wright's comment to me was, I go to these buildings, I do these inspections, and he said, and then I come back into these buildings when another company rents them or purchases them, and he says, I'm just flabbergasted at the changes they make that are unbeknownst to anybody. So they make these changes, in the building after it's inspected, and it never gets identified. So he said that he had been encouraging the village. Well, I also started getting more questions, more people calling and saying, hey, what about this? What about, can I do this? Can I do that? And I felt that I didn't really have the knowledge to answer a lot of these questions. So when a fire inspector class came around, I took the class and really began to understand a lot more. I mean, I knew what life safety threats were, but why things are set up the way they are. Sprinklers, what type of inspections, how often should they be inspected, how wide the doors should be. So I was the one that kind of first kicked it off. Well, since then we've had 2 other personnel actually take the fire inspector class, and one of them is certified now, has passed the test, and the other one still needs to take his exam. So it was kind of nice to find that there were other people in our organization that were interested in doing the inspections. It'd be hard for me to do them all myself. I do have a lot of other responsibilities, and seem to be more and more come up every day. And I also had the opportunity to take the plan review class, which even got me further knowledge. And we have another person that's interested in taking that class also. So we're actually going from not having anybody certified to 2, possibly 3, and then one plan reviewer and then a second one. One of my inspectors is a full-time member of our department, and the other one is the one that needs to take his exam, actually just retired and is doing kind of some sales on the side, doing a couple other things, so he would have time to go out and help with these inspections. We can do them a couple different ways. You know, in the beginning, I believe there's gonna be a lot, and there's probably gonna be a lot of follow-up. And again, I don't think anybody intentionally, you know, violates the fire code, but sometimes they just don't understand why we do the things we do. We have one business in the area that they have one company that handles their fire alarm, one company that does their sprinkler system, another company that did their hood system. And they had their sprinkler system inspected every year like they were supposed to, and they thought everything was being done that they needed to do. And then come to find out they had other parts of that that needed to be done every 6 months. They were kind of like, we didn't really know. We thought, you know, the company's name said fire in their title, and when they came and inspected things, they were good. So we can actually have company inspections done, which would be, you know, my daytime crew, whether it be the ambulance or because I have daytime ambulance and fire now, they could actually do some of these company inspections themselves. They can go in, they can look, they can say, hey, you know, I saw that your fire extinguishers are out of date, or maybe everything looks great. You know, check in the emergency lighting, those type of things. That accomplishes a few different things. That gets our staff more familiar with the building, so if they do have to go there when it's full of smoke and fire, that they know what the layout is. Those type of inspections wouldn't be a charge for them. And then they could identify, you know, hey, we went there, we saw that their emergency lighting isn't working, or their fire extinguishers haven't been changed. Well, at that point, then I could go in and follow up with them. Either possibly do a complete inspection, or say, hey, listen, we identified these, please get these taken care of, you know, and we'll come back in 30 days and check and see how things are going. So in the beginning, I think that's kind of what we're going to have to do, because to try to hit every business, even just in Williamston, it's a kind of a significant amount, not to mention the other townships. A lot of jurisdictions actually divide up, categorize how often fire inspections should be done. Theaters, for instance, are something that should be done every year. I mean, you got a lot of people coming in and out of the theaters. It's a lot of public. But, you know, a smaller business, maybe we could hit them every 2 years or every 3 years. So it is possible to categorize them, even though both the IFC, the International Fire Code, and the NFPA both recommend that fire inspections be done on an annual basis. Again, you know, I see the staffing being done by people that are currently employed by NISA. How we kind of go about that, we can send a letter, would be our first idea. Send a letter and say, hey, listen, you know, it's time to do a fire inspection. We want to, you know, come by and do this. We try to do them what's convenient to them. Most places want them done while they're open. So you know, and we don't have to come in and say, hey, today, this is when we're doing it. We're doing it at 10 a.m. Like it or not, that's when we're going to do it. That's not the way fire inspections should be done. It's more of a, hey, this needs to be done. You know, what's convenient for you? You know, can we come tomorrow at 10 or next week at 10? You know, do you have somebody available? You know, we don't want to hit somebody if we're going to do, like, let's say the pub. We wouldn't want to go in during their lunch rush or their dinner rush. Maybe we would want to go in there an hour before they open. You know, whatever's most convenient to them. If we did identify something that was a life safety hazard, we might put you know, something that they need to be taken care of a little quicker than 30 days. If it's an imminent life hazard, then it may be we need to either close them or have them make some concession to make sure things are going to work out. A prime example of that would be, let's talk about 304, or is that building? If their fire alarm system's down, if it's going to be down for more than 8 hours, we need to be notified, and they need to have what they call fire watch, which means they need somebody checking everything on an hourly basis and documenting, you know, that they went through every floor and didn't see any signs of any fire. So, you know, just because they have a violation doesn't mean that we actually have to shut them down or close them down. But they need to do something to help us, you know, with that. And And that would be in place until their fire alarm system went back online. So I think that kind of covers question one.
Chief, or Mr. Yance, question on, if you did find a violation or something, would you have to coordinate that also with my OSHA, with a health safety issue, or how would you do that interdepartmentally?
We wouldn't necessarily need to notify my OSHA on those issues. The violations we'd be looking at would be things that were tied directly to the fire code. And again, if they didn't want to do a fire watch or whatever, then we could say, we do have the authority as the fire department to say, you know, hey, sorry, you need to, you know, evacuate everybody out of here.
Because I know a lot of commercial entities like Peckham, we have our insurance company, and they come through once or twice a year and do a third party, almost what you're doing. They check their electrical cords, they check their electronics. So I don't know if other, you know, if we're pushing that as letting our customers know as well, for community entities, hey, your insurance company can also perform these type inspections.
Correct. And if we've already done them, in a lot of cases, the insurance company will take that as a,
As a thumbs up.
right. There are some that, with D&W, for instance, we're on their list, so every time their inspection is done at D&W, they send us a report. But I'm kind of amazed at the things that they don't check, or at least they don't notify that they've checked, and I think their title is even Fire Safety Associates.
Okay. Thank you for answering those questions.
Any other questions on that first question?
No, that was real thorough, and those answered what I had, you know, questions about as far as who would facilitate and how and who, what type of staffing you have to be able to do it. So thank you for the detail.
I think I kind of covered question two, that we would, you know, we're looking at this as a fire prevention. We're not looking at this as a, you know, writing tickets and violations. We're doing this to protect our citizens and our, you know, the business owners that are in the area.
I think that's going to be the most important thing when we roll this out, is that making sure that our downtown district understands that we don't want a tragedy to occur. We don't want something to happen that could have been prevented, especially with the fact that a lot of our businesses have residential above them. And so I think that's going to be the biggest thing to communicate and emphasize, whether it comes as a letter from, you know, city and in conjunction with NISA, however we roll that out. That's got to be the big key thing, is that we're not doing this to penalize, to punish, or anything. It's to prevent something from happening that could take out an entire block. Or, you know, with the 109, had it been worse with the residential being above there? So that's super important.
If we do adopt a fire code, does it have to go to a vote by the public?
No, I think it's basically amending our ordinances and adding it. But we would definitely want to roll this out very soft and make sure that the downtown district and the industrial park is aware that we are looking to do this. And I don't think it's going to be anything immediate. I think this is going to take time to establish.
Is
And-
it, sorry,
That's okay, go ahead, Dan.
is it something that as we've firmed everything up and we're moving towards amending the ordinances and we're talking about public hearings, will we want to send some sort of notice out before the public hearings to our businesses, hey,
I think we would want
Have
to,
a-
like Scott has done with his neighborhood projects, and informing them that this directly concerns the downtown district, the industrial park, and we would love to have your presence at that meeting, but I think that's super important.
'cause that saves a lot of, well, we didn't know you guys were,
No.
well, we sent you a direct letter.
And I think we're getting better at that, and like I said, with all of Scott's correspondence with the South Putnam project, with the Middle Street project, and making sure that, you know, he touched base with those residents so that you don't have that surprise factor.
The other thing that I wanted to point out is we've been able to lower our ISO rating. The ISO rating is done by the insurance groups, and they hire a company to come in and evaluate what our risk factors are, which directly relates to what you pay on your homeowner's insurance. Now, with the last round, we were able to lower our rates in a lot of our surrounding rural area. And I didn't even realize exactly how much of a difference, but I've had several, even some of our NISA board members comment about, wow, it really made a big difference. One thing that I couldn't, when I was filling out all that paperwork, that I couldn't check the box on is that we really did any fire prevention. When people hear the word fire prevention, they think that just means us going into the school and talking to the kids about fire prevention. They don't understand that that's a community thing that we talk about. And part of fire prevention is inspecting our buildings and seeing that they're safe, making sure they're safe.
Mike, would you see rental units such as like the apartments over on Lloyd Street or the Wilkins building? Would that fall under? Because I mean, I know like when I would be on duty and if we would do a walkthrough or respond to a call at Wilkins, sometimes there was like clutter in the hallways, which would make it really difficult or impossible for somebody to get to an apartment. You know, if there were the need, if there was a call out for a fire or something like that, or EMS to respond to, you know, a medical situation. So would property management in that respect, rentals, be included in that?
Yes, they would be.
Thank you.
Not like duplexes.
Right.
They're considered a
But
rental residential.
Right, but multi-structure like Lloyd Street and Wilkins and 304
304,
and,
yeah.
okay.
First
Thank
they'd
you.
have to fix the elevator in Wilkins. I
Well.
got stuck in that sucker twice.
And that's not a good thing.
And currently, schools are still being handled by the state,
Okay.
but the state isn't doing the inspections. And there's actually been a bill that they were trying to get through during the lame duck session, which I guess still is alive, for making it mandatory that all assemblies be inspected annually. And they were throwing that back on the locals.
Mhm.
Now, if the local fire department or like NISA, for instance, said that we didn't want to do those inspections, then there would be a list that would be handed to the owner and saying, here's a list of certified fire inspectors.
Mhm.
You need to contact one of these people because it is mandatory that you do this.
Right.
That's covering churches, bars,
Mhm.
pretty much any place that has a gathering place of more than 49 people. That's still kind of hanging out there.
Mhm.
They were talking about setting rates because they didn't want, you know, them to call Mike Gans and say, I'm gonna charge you $100, and call Chief Young and he says, well, you know, I'm only gonna charge you 80. And
Right.
they didn't want that competition, so if you didn't go with the local, then you had to go with somebody else. They just look at those areas as being some of the biggest areas for loss, which if you look at the history, you know, the fires, the Coconut Grove fires, all those different fires where people have died, they've been in bars, restaurants, generally larger gathering than what we have here, but, you know, above Williamston Pub, they have a restaurant area up there
Right.
that they rent out, and if something happened downstairs below in the pub, those people gotta get out.
I have some other questions, and it goes into the financial questions, which you haven't talked about. Do you want to talk about that before I go on and ask my questions, I guess? Not to jump the gun.
We're
but
just about there.
When you were talking, I'm sitting here reading ahead, and I'm like, okay, well, you touched a little bit on this, but.
Some of the issues when I was going through the financial, when I still really started looking at this, I really didn't want to charge. I don't want to charge anything for it. But when I started looking at how much time this could take, you know, if I gotta send one of my people out, let's use my full-time guy, if I gotta send him out to do inspections,
Sure.
you know, I'm gonna be paying him overtime, because he's already working his regular job. Or even if I send somebody else out, you know, it's gonna be a minimum of an hour to do the inspection on a small business, and it's going to be, you know, then there's gonna be follow-up paperwork.
Mhm.
And I thought, you know, they're paying taxes, you know, how do we do this? But then it also kind of dawned on me that especially with the downtown, you guys do give us back some of the DDA money that's taken out, but a lot of these businesses are getting tax breaks for this, and you guys are recouping some of that money. So, you know, should we be charging? And again, it's just been I kind of looked and I was amazed at how much other places charge. Some places charge, you know, by the square foot. So and I put some examples in your packet there. 65 cents a square foot. You can imagine how expensive that would be for some places.
Oh, sure.
And then, you know, nonprofits, churches, schools, it's not really fair to charge them. And we were also tossing around, when I was thinking about the municipalities themselves. I mean, would we charge, you know, the city of Williamston to do all your buildings? And because you're already part of our, you know, you're kind of part of us, I would think we would. And when I came up with those numbers, I was thinking, you know, a $50 for a small business. When I'm thinking of a small business, I'm thinking like the sign of the pineapple, you know.
So you have a definition of what a small business is really, and what a...
I hadn't divided it all down, thinking square foot or anything like that yet. This was just, you know, I'm trying to put this stuff down by
You
paper.
might want to nitpick, you know, well, I'm a small business, I'm not a medium.
Correct.
Well, you making that determination.
Correct. But you know, then I think of like D&G, and I would think of D&G being a large business.
Right.
Taking that a step further, Aldi's, I'm going to use Aldi's as an example, and you know, that's a huge warehouse building, plus they have anhydrous ammonia running there, you know, so that's when I was talking about large warehouses and then any place that would have a lot of hazardous materials.
What would you consider Keller's then, because it's got multiple rentals inside it? Would you just do one bill for Keller's, or
Yes.
would it be individual?
I would think
Store
that the you know, the land,
The
there's
main
probably one
property owner.
landlord.
Okay.
So we would do that, and I would think if multiple businesses in there, I would think that would probably be categorized more like a large business.
So then that would maybe be the same case for Wilkinson's then, because they have the businesses below, which is you know, the small little, you know, antique and those and Dollar Times and stuff, so then it would just go to the general landlord. Okay,
That makes sense.
yeah.
Just think it through with the definitions.
Yes, and again, this was just kind of throwing some things down on paper.
How are you going to charge the commons?
Well,
It's
and
not
see, that's
profit.
one landlord.
But it's not
Right.
profit and profit, because they've got the common. How do you break it over that way?
Yeah.
Good question. Good question.
So leading from those questions, I have one. What about like at-home daycares and things like that? Would that be something you'd want to inspect? I mean, they are inspected by the state every 3 years when they renew their licenses, but, you know.
Correct. I would not think it in home daycare. And I was trying to find some information on that because you know, I was talking to my station chief from Weberville, Rod Feaster, and I said, hey, you have a business. How is your business classified?
Right.
He says, well, I have a farm, and he says, technically it's classified as a home business. Do we have the home businesses and documentation at the city to even know they're
Yes or
existing?
no? Because for daycare, she has to notify.
Well, but does it go through the city or does it go
No, she had
through
to-
licensing
she
and
had to apply.
regulations? Through the
We did, we
state?
had to apply, it's through the state, but
Through Laura.
we had to have
Yeah.
something with the city
Okay.
sent to the state. So
Oh, okay, all
She
right.
had to apply for something. This was a while ago, I mean, it's no
Right.
longer open, but that's
Right.
why these questions came about.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
The other thing was, you have $100 as an idea for a plan review. For instance, we've had a site that's had multiple plan reviews. How would you go about charging for something along those lines? And when plans are reviewed, they're reviewed almost on a constant basis.
Correct. I envision that I would just do it once, just charge the fee once. I mean, how do you guys do it? But,
Well,
Well, or AGS, how do they do it? Or McKenna.
with that, couldn't we, you know, when we're ready for, I'm assuming there's a final plan review, when it's,
When it's
one of the
signed
things,
off and
hey,
then
it's signed off, ready to go, the last thing that happens before we're ready, chief gets it, and then if he says, then it goes back. But that way he's not having to handle it
multiple times.
multiple times.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, I think that's probably how we would make it work. Right now, I guess you guys are doing it pro bono. Because you've
Yeah.
been doing it since, at least since I've been here, you've been helping us with that. And that is appreciated, but in your defense, our other contractors, you know, they do charge us for those things too, so.
Okay, something to definitely look into. What else, John? Because I can see your notes, I just can't read them.
Yeah. The fee thing is kind of not inviting for, especially, it's tough because sitting on planning, we're looking at trying to bring businesses in, you know, and then how do we roll this out to where, you know, these businesses that are established isn't gonna be detrimental to them, you know what I mean? Because there's some businesses that have been here for years and never had fire inspections, and I know we're gonna find stuff that's gonna have to be corrected and fixed, you know, on top of the fees, the fixing stuff. Certain things will have to meet timelines, we know that, I mean, it's kind of unavoidable.
And there's other things that, you know, we can make exceptions for. We just have to make sure that those exceptions aren't gonna cause the death of somebody. And the prime example I'll use is you guys were really thinking ahead when you put the water mains coming into the buildings downtown. But those, from what I understand, are 4-inch water mains. Fire code states 6-inch.
Right.
We're not gonna make people pull those out because of that. So what we would do is document you know, that we've made an exception to it. Similar to when I was talking to the Commons and, you know, he was in that 32 feet or 32 and a half feet. You know, we don't wanna stop his project because his building's 2 foot higher in the back than it needs to be. There are exceptions that we can make, but we have to weigh the benefits and the, you know, to determine whether, you know, it is gonna be detrimental to their business.
Well, and I'm almost wondering too, as we walk through this and decide how we're gonna roll this out, in order to kind of maybe ease the pain a little bit, have one flat fee for that first year of an inspection, irregardless of the size. But then when those renewal inspections come up, the 2-year, 3-year, or, you know, those categories, then you introduce the fee structure right up front, but for that very first time, when you're going in, because we've established this, having a one-time flat fee, something that's very tolerable. But then, that way they know then in 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, this is the fee structure that is in place. And I think that might be a little, you know, a little less heartburn for people.
I think that's a good idea, because the first, especially with the established businesses, the first time we go through, or you go through, that's when you're gonna catch a lot of this stuff, so they are gonna have to be
Yeah, they're gonna have
possibly
to-
going out of
Yeah,
pocket.
dig into pockets.
And the
So do it
second one,
free the first year.
Well, even
I
that
thought
too, but
about
again,
that,
you know,
but
their
he has
time and
expenses.
They gotta pay their
cover.
employees.
Part of what looked at it when I was looking at, you know, the fees was that this year, there were 2 areas that I exceeded what my allocated budget was for those areas. And those 2 areas were payroll for our employees. Part of that due to the fact that I put the second, you know, I got that second crew available during the day. We added that Monday through Friday, 7A to 7P. And I put some padding in there, but I did not anticipate that was mostly gonna end up being staffed by my full-time staff working overtime. So my personnel, what I allocated in the budget, what we projected in there, was, you know, a lot of that overtime. On top of that, we ran more double calls where we had 2 ambulances at the same time over the course of the year. But also over the course of the year, this year, we had 99 less EMS calls than we did the year before. And why is that? I can't answer that because everybody around us was still up like we had been over the last 10 years. So when I looked at my costs, you know, that and then maintenance is the other. Our building's 10 years old, and so we had to replace a boiler, we had to do some other things, so his maintenance costs were up. So looking at that personnel budget, and even for the paid on calls, even though we were down on EMS calls, we were actually up on fire calls. So that's where I was looking at, you know, payroll being one of the areas, and that's why I ended up throwing the fees on there. You know, we're just there to help and get things done. And, you know, if it means that I'm salary, so if it means I have to work more hours to get this done, you know, I wanna see it happen. And again, it's not, you know, these costs that I threw in here aren't even, NISA's not gonna make money off this.
Right.
We're still gonna lose money, but it's gonna help supplement, but.
Well, and I think that's something that we can work, you know, on, with more discussion and how do we do this, so again, that it's, so that the brick and mortar, whether it's downtown or industrial or property management or anything like that, that they understand that we're doing this for their benefit, because we don't want something to happen and then say, oh, well, if we would have had something in place, this could have been prevented. So, and I hope they see the value of it.
And that's what I look at when I look at the, you know, the Tavern 109
Mhm.
and talking to the owner, and she's like, you know, we didn't know.
Right.
I'm not trying to be disgruntled, there's a lot of things that I got questions about. Like, what if there is a lawsuit or something? How does NISA fare? How does the city fare? You know, where do our obligations and responsibilities come in and say, you guys miss something on an inspection, or something happens on an inspection, or somebody decides, I don't like this and wants to take you to court? How is all that going to be handled and administered? I mean, I guess I'm looking at also, is there a written plan from NISA stating, hey, this is how we're gonna tackle these things? You know, I mean, there's so much left open, and I guess, you know, we're always gonna have questions that pop up, and, you know, we can go to the fire code and all that, but, you know, how are we protected by this?
Well,
Besides the fire safety
Right
aspect
now-
of it, I know.
right now, we're hanging out there, and we are so open right now for a lawsuit. Like you don't even understand, have a clue, because we don't do anything. And if we know about something, see, right now, we have a business downtown that I walked into and saw that their fire alarm panel wasn't working, okay? I can't make them fix it, but because I know about it, if something happens and somebody dies, the liability is gonna fall back on NISA and the city.
Mhm. Because we don't have anything in place to help prevent it.
Correct. And we always say, well, we just fall under the state. That's not flying with all these articles that have been in the State Journal and everything else. And they're saying that, you know, the legislature has been assured that the locals are taking care of these over and over and over again.
So I guess, I understand that aspect of it, that's one reason why I'm not against this, but where is it that NISA is gonna, if we have to go to court, is it NISA going with a city representative, NISA's covering the costs because you're administering the program? Is it the city, you know, I mean, obviously it's gonna be a contract too, I'm assuming, or however we do this.
And I'm assuming it's whoever they file suit against. So it may be not City of Williamston because NISA provided the fire inspection. But the one thing that I want, and I'm looking through here and I'm not seeing it, but maybe it's just because there's a lot of pages. I know you currently do fire inspection for Village of Weberville, correct?
Well,
Or,
not
like-
really yet.
okay, who do you do fire inspections for right now? What municipality? Anybody?
Nope.
Okay, so you don't actually have a checklist in place that we could say, this is what we're proposing as a fire inspection checklist, and code enforcement, it still has to be developed.
I do have the NFPA sheets. that
Okay.
they-
So that is what you would base your template off of for us, and then modify it specifically for our downtown area, industrial park, residential, rental housing. Okay.
Correct. There's,
Then that's right.
in the code book,
Yes.
there it talks about
Standard
exactly
forms
what
and
to
stuff
look
like
at,
that.
the,
Okay.
you know, the width of the doors, the, you know.
So, with that being said, you're saying the NFPA, and I'm looking here, this says IFC, is there gonna be any conflict in that? Or
No.
do these fall in line?
No, they're
with each
not.
other?
The reason that we wanna go with the IFC is because the IFC, the International Building Code, the IBC, is based on the IFC. IFC and NFPA are,
Interchangeable.
yes, and there's very few variances on that. In fact, there's a lot of places that say that we're gonna adopt the IFC, the International Fire Code, but we're gonna also follow the NFPA 101, which is life safety. So they really are, it's the same codes, just written a little differently. The class that I took and that the other people have taken has been put on by the NFPA, which is why those are the sheets that we have. talking to other inspectors, I talked to Tavis and Meridian, which actually resides in the city. You know, that's how they developed theirs, was from, it's pretty much the NFPA with just the name change on the top. So, but it's all following the codes that are in the book. It's not, we're not making up things or not saying that, you know, the IFC says that we can't have anything stacked up to the ceiling,
Right,
12 inches from the ceiling if there's a sprinkler system. So,
okay.
How does this fall in line with your pre-test fire planning for, like, I know they're supposed to be done and so often and reviewed and things like that, would this fall in line with something like that? That's also
yes, we would actually have pre-plans that we really lack in, which is another one of those things also that, you know, by us lowering our ISO rating is going to make the business's insurance less expensive also.
So, how, we have a fire code, you're doing the fire inspections, and you go in there and there's a big hairy deal, whatever it is, you know, how's that gonna be handled? What's the process?
Well, we have stumbled upon a few issues just walking in, and whenever I found these issues, I have been contacting Corey and kind of letting him know we did have an issue at 3 or 4 that we needed to take care of. I gave him the heads up. Same thing with another business in the area. When I stumbled upon something, I let him know, you know. So we would, if it's immediate, we're gonna have to contact the landlord, and you could get some calls saying, hey, listen, you know, this guy came in here and told me that, you know, I've either got to put a fire watch on or evacuate the building. And really, that should be happening anyway. We would contact the state, and the state should come in and do it, but they're not getting it done. I've also gotten calls from the companies that are actually that maintain the fire alarm system saying, listen, you know, this system's been down for a week. You know, you need to do something, and I've been unable to really do a lot about it because we haven't had the authority to do it.
Right.
But again, once I know about it, I gotta act.
Right.
So, you know, some of the things may get called back, you know, where they're gonna call the city and be upset.
I guess I'm asking on your end, what's, do we know, so that, you know, you have a fire watch, you're gonna shut them down or whatever, okay, and then once it's fixed, that's off, or a smaller scale thing, you go in and you were just talking about 12 inches from the ceiling with a sprinkler head, okay, you give them 30 days and then we re-inspect, or what, I guess I'm asking you find a problem.
There's an example of a letter in here. What we would do is if we did an inspection, we would let them know when we're there, and then we'd follow up with an official letter stating, hey, these are the things we found, these are the codes that are in violation.
And you'd ask for a correction plan, what are your plans,
Correct.
what's the timeline?
Correct.
Yeah, give us some feedback.
We would say 30 days, but you know, things can be extended out, but exactly, what is your plan?
Dan, looks like that.
If they get something blocking a door, or I know for a fact you found someone in a store that had the boxes halfway to the ceiling, okay?
Just tell them to move when they're moving, it's done.
All, yeah, you just walked in and saw it, I mean.
Depends on the incident.
Extension
and
cords
he
running
told-
under
He told the
carpet.
person in charge, and she said she'd take care of it, I don't know if she, this sounds like it's gonna, take a lot of paperwork.
It is.
Who's gonna be responsible? Is Paula gonna be responsible for that, or?
Paula and Pam would be helping me with the paperwork. I talked to them about, you know, sending the letters, and we can come up with a form letter where they, you know, insert the business address into.
So, we all know there are people that just don't do things the way they're supposed to. So, we've given them their 30-day notice, they're not complying. Is that when we go to the Board of Appeals, or what, somebody's just being belligerent and they're not complying? Where do we end up?
Well, that would kind of come down to what action that, you know, the city would like us to take at that point. You know, we do have the authority to close them down. We have the authority to, I mean, if you grant us that, to, you know, put a padlock and a chain to the door. Again, that's not something we wanna do.
Oh, I agree, I'm not saying that's, you never wanna get there, but
No,
there are
right.
always,
But
they're
I-
difficult people. It's-
Right, and I think what we're all, at is that we have to put some time and effort into this, get a program written where both entities know what's happening. Record keeping, as far as like these inspections, would be either electronic or on paper, how would you guys do that? And then would we be copied on the inspections? We were to get a copy of the inspection and a copy of any violation letters that would go out, the city's copied on it, that type of thing, so we know what's happening.
Correct. We have a system,
Okay.
Image Trend, which is the same system that we use for our medical reporting,
Okay,
and our fire reporting. When we purchased the system, we also purchased the inspection module.
okay, so you're ready with that? then?
Correct.
Okay.
We have no issue if the city wants to be notified of, you know, inspections, great.
Because I
We
think
would
we're probably gonna be
absolutely wanna be
a phone
notified.
call.
Yeah.
And, you know, hey, somebody was here and did the inspection, now what do I do? They might not necessarily, you know, even though you provide them with a letter and contact for more information, they're still probably gonna be calling the city.
Correct.
So we
Oh,
can't be
go
the
ahead.
first community to go through this, so there's gotta be
Right,
some
right, there's gonna be some
that can
growing
give
pains
us
with
a
it.
heads up on what to look for, but once it's done,
Mm-hmm,
I think it's a plus as far as someone coming in here to
mm-hmm,
know that that step's being taken.
yeah.
I mean, I agree with all that. Corey, how did they handle this in your previous employer up there?
Nobody in San Luis County adopted a fire code, as far as I'm aware.
Wow.
Now, when I was in Ohio, we had it was similar to how the city here has NISA, somewhat different, but it wasn't like a city fire department. And they had an annual inspection program. To be honest, the city was, I can't ever recall a single complaint or issue that got elevated. It may have, but it was just what they did. You know, everybody knew what the program was, they would do them. I think it worked out really well. Honestly, I think it helped because the businesses knew the firefighters, they knew the personnel.
Right.
And so it was a good thing. Now, there probably were times where they found stuff and people weren't happy. But what Mike's talking about, or Chief Yance, with the ISO rating, that was a big deal down in that community. You know, that the fire department was proud of the efforts they took. And I think we were like a 2 or a 3, which is really amazing. And I think having that fire prevention was a big part of that. So I can see a lot of the benefits that Chief Yance has been talking about. But I also hear, you know, a lot of the concerns. And one of the things that I floated in that one-page memo, and I mentioned in an email to Mike, is, you know, it might be pertinent to have some kind of agreement here, because there's a lot of questions that I'm sure would have come up when we contract with AGS for building code inspections, and how does it handled if there's an insurance issue or a lawsuit issue. I'm confident that an agreement would address all of those things. I just don't know those answers tonight, but, you know.
And I think it would be wise for us to have a contract for services so that NISA knows what they're responsible for, we know what we're responsible for. And I guess I can't stress enough that as we roll this out, it's expressing to our community that safety is of the utmost importance. We want everybody to be safe. We want everybody to be protected. We don't want to have something happen and then have to be reactionary to it. We want to be proactive, and I don't think we will be faulted for that. I think that we will probably be surprised at how many people say thank you, and I can't believe this wasn't in place to begin with.
We have had businesses contact me and say, hey, can you come do a safety inspection? Hey,
Sure.
you know, several other businesses.
Going on to the Board of Appeals questions here, which I know we're running time-wise, we're getting
Yeah.
that. I have a question, I mean, instead of reading all of it. How would it work, and this is where I think the program is written, but how would it work to remove a member or have an alternate even on the Board of Appeals? Because according to what you got written here, it'd be probably one from each municipality, and obviously kind of set up like the NISA board is. Because what if they have an interest that, you know, there'd be conflict of
Conflict of
interest.
Conflict of
Yeah.
interest, absolutely.
You know, how are we gonna handle stuff like that? Because we have a lot of business owners that sit on boards and things like that. And,
It's,
know.
there is a page in here that I gave you guys talking about, specifically about the Board of
Oh,
Appeals.
yeah. Page 475.
It talks about vacancies, it talks about,
It's 473.
No, it's 475. Oh, it's the beginning. No, that's XXI.
it's, spells out a lot of that, it talks about conflict of interest.
Mm-hmm, membership,
Correct,
okay.
correct, and like the city of Lansing, I also put a sample of Board of Appeals appeal in here, and they actually charge a fee for
Well,
Board of
sure.
Appeals.
For administrative work and everything.
Correct, and again, that's, you asked me who I was doing inspections for. The village blanketly adopted the fire code and we haven't talked about anything of what you guys are talking about in the process of addressing that with them. A big problem we've had at NISA, and this has been before I've been here, Dave was here, for years, has been what authority do we have? And that question about whether we've been designated as the AHJ has come up on multiple occasions. When we go and find an illegal burn, I mean, it's been tossed back and forth. At one point, we're calling the police to come and deal with it, and then the police, what's the first thing the police do? They call us and leave, tell us to deal with it.
Don't do that next time.
That's what happens in Williamston Township with Meridian, that's, the county doesn't even want to come out. Now, the fact that you have formed NISA, that you are part of NISA, in some interpretations, gives us the authority to do that. But we have not had an official agreement stating that NISA is the AHJ.
Right.
So that is definitely something that would be good in protecting all of us, because if we do come across that illegal burn and it does all this damage, and PD says, well, we're not the fire department, and the fire department says, we're not the AHJ, does that fall back on the city because it's the city's problem and they never addressed it?
Right.
I'm not an attorney, I don't know how to, decipher all that. But, we can set that Board of Appeals. My fear is that if we say, okay, the city is gonna have its own Board of Appeals, is that with the recommendations, and again, it's not a requirement, but the recommendations that both NFPA and the IFC have are that you should have somebody, a general contractor, that you should have, I remember some of them that were on the list, that you have an industrial safety professional. I mean, I know there's somebody in the area that works for MIOSHA,
Yeah.
because when they were working on our building and our
Well,
guys on the roof.
He's moved out of the area.
Is he?
Yes.
Okay. A design professional, which would probably be your engineer, so, you would want, if we limited it to, Wheatfield Township, they may not
They
have
may
all
have
those.
had that.
So, I guess we can go right in lines with that. How is this gonna work with our current, building inspections and stuff like that for new construction? Is that something?
It really doesn't affect that much, because they're following, they should be, following the International Building Code now. I'm gonna kick back to the Tavern 109, there were things that we found there, and we don't know whether it was inspected, was it inspected, wasn't it inspected?
I'm asking for numerous reasons, not just for NISA, so don't.
Yeah, no,
that-
that's fine. So when there's a remodel that hits
Right.
a certain dollar amount or a certain amount of,
Size,
or a
square
new
footage.
build, those are done, the International Fire Code by the International Building Code, those things should be done at that point.
And then NISA comes in after the fact to make sure those stay in place over time.
Correct. Charleston 9 fires is the big example always. That was the fire with a furniture store. 9 firefighters were killed in that fire. They had an ISO rating of 1, which is the best you can get, and they prided themselves on it. But they said, we're at ISO 1. We don't need to train. They sat and ate ice cream, and you'd ask any of them, they'll tell you, we're number 1. We don't have to do this. They had stopped doing fire inspections several years before that. This furniture store, the violations in that furniture store were just astronomical. several of the firefighters that died were actually in an area where there used to be an exit, which by code had to be an exit. But they wanted more space to put stuff up against the wall, so they blocked in the door, and so, you know, those firefighters knew that exit was there at one point in time. When they had been doing inspections, they went there to get out and were unable to.
Well, I'd like to go ahead and try to wrap this up. Corey, what do you see as our next steps? Another work session then, or?
So I think we've answered a fair amount of questions, but as we've gone through this, I think a lot more questions have come up. As I think about it just off the top of my head right now, I heard Chief Yance, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you find that there would be value if we actually had a formal agreement that said City of Williamston is designating NISA as the AHJ. I think that we need some discussion about what does that agreement encompass, as far as to answer Mr. Bitzer's questions about some of the program aspects of it, the financial aspects of it, and so I really think whether it's a work session or a subcommittee, something that allows us in maybe a smaller group to get through these key issues. And then the question I have, and I don't know if we have time to answer, is, you know, how does the NISA board feel about this? Because ultimately, like me, you have to take this back to them and get them to ratify, you know, any type of agreement. And so whether this discussion involves them or as staff, it just ends up going that way. I know working with you on the DDA revenue sharing, you know, there's a lot of questions that came up, and, you know, so your board's doing their jobs. But that just comes to mind as something that we need to work through, so.
Their biggest, the board's been very supportive of it, but their biggest concern is also, again, you know, how are we paying for it? How are we covering our costs? That's their.
But again, if we agree to this, then we should be looking at a budget item, we should look at what we
Yeah.
support it from the city and just.
My last little comment before we go ahead and close this work session was, Corey and I did have a really good, thorough conversation last week, digging through some different things, and I did suggest to him a working committee to help move this along with members of, 2 or 3 members of council, Corey being on that work committee, Chief Yance, or another NISA member, just to help this move forward and not necessarily be a big work session, have that committee bring back the information, and so I think that would probably be something that we would want to pursue.
I'd like to make one suggestion, that maybe being in a position where I was a firefighter, that this somehow be streamlined. Because it'd be tough for someone to come in on scene and be like, okay, pull out the City of Williamston book, pull out whatever the agreement is. Maybe have a program written that covers all of NISA's jurisdictions and include all of them in it too, because with Williamston Township and our agreements and everything we have, and even we have joint planning meetings, I think this is very beneficial to
all the
the area.
municipalities, yeah.
I mean, yes, it is the City of Williamston, but so is the surrounding parts.
But if we can spearhead it to
Right.
help other municipalities, that's probably a win-win
Because I mean,
for
like,
everyone.
right now you said, well, we've already adopted it. Now, how do you amend it? You know what I mean? It's open.
And I
mean, I'm not talking down on this, it needs to happen, but I mean, I just think there's a lot more to go.
I don't disagree. It was kind of, you know, we had talked about it, and I gave them some information, and then I found out they adopted it. So I actually was going to send this to the supervisor, Bloomquist. Her and I have had conversations. They're like wanting to do something.
Right.
There's some questions about whether they actually do have an adopted fire code, but nobody can seem to find out that information from past records and things. You know, people change hands, you know,
Right.
and everything, and sometimes that information isn't always readily available.
Right.
I did put some other examples of some other things in the packet. So there's a cost of the actual books that you would get if you want to have a copy here of, in case somebody had a question too.
So, thank you for everything that you've brought to us so that we can read it, digest it, and figure out how to make this happen and move it forward.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, we've got about a 4-minute break in case anybody needs to get up. And call to order the regular city council meeting for Monday, January 14th. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Holly, will you call the roll, please?
Wilson. Bizzard.
Here.
Bellinger.
Here.
Wise. Rhines.
Here.
Gilroy.
Here.
Hall.
Here,
And I did receive a call from Councilman Weiss that he could not be here this evening due to another commitment.
motion,
Motion to excuse Mr. Wise.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Now we are looking for an approval for the agenda for this evening, unless there's any other changes or additions that need to be made or questions.
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now we have an opportunity for audience participation. Not seeing anybody out there, so we're gonna go ahead and move right along. Council meeting minutes from December 10th, any changes, or would somebody like to make a motion to accept the council meeting minutes as presented?
I make a motion that we accept the council meeting minutes of December 10th, 2018, as presented.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No, we have accounts payable for this evening?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time going through accounts receivable. But everything matched. I would like to make a motion to approve check 71167 through 71310 in the amount, and your hat, $350,356.63.
All right,
Second.
thank you. Any questions about any accounts payable? If not, Holly?
Rhines.
Yes.
Gilroy.
Yes.
Wilson.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes,
Bizzard.
Yes.
Bellinger.
Yeah.
All right, moving right along to our action items for this evening then. The first item is appointment of council members to boards and commissions. I was able to just have a quick conversation with Corey. This is something that we do at the beginning of every year with our city council appointments for our boards, and I would like to leave our board status quo with the same representatives and alternates as we had for the 2018 year. I will go through those for the record. And Holly, if I missed something, please call it out for me. But for EDC TIPA, our council member representative was Councilman Weiss, and our alternate is Councilman Hall. For DDA this year, it will be myself as the representative and Councilman Bizzard as the alternate. For Planning Commission, I have Councilman Bizzard as a representative and Councilman Bellinger as the alternate. For Cemetery Board, I believe it's Councilman Rhines, but I can't remember who the alternate. Or is it flip-flopped?
but if
Kent.
if you would like that.
I'm not sure I can serve on the cemetery board because I work.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, because you, okay.
Okay,
So Councilman Hall, will you
good.
be our representative then? And then would I would need to have a different alternate? Okay, all right, so,
No,
all
yeah.
right. For NISA, we have Councilmember Welton, and then Councilmember Weiss will remain as the alternate. For Parks and Recreation Commission, we have Councilman Hall with Councilman Rhines as the alternate. And for Accounts Payable review, Councilman Bellinger has agreed to continue on for this next year. Is there anybody that has a burning desire to be the alternate just in case he cannot be here for that?
Who wants
Who would like to raise their hand?
to?
I've been doing it for the past 2 years and I did not have to fill in. Okay, all right, he's not here, so we'll just double check and see if Councilman Weiss would like to be the alternate accounts payable reviewer. So we'll put his name with a little question mark.
Good job.
And then also, ZBA, we have Councilman Rhines with Councilman Bellinger as the alternative. Alternate. I think that covers everything, right, Holly? And then again, if we determine that we do want to create a work committee for fire code, fire inspection, my suggestion would be 3 council members, 2 NISA members, and city manager. Would that work as far as a work committee?
So you had what, three. Williamston Council, 2 board NISA,
Yep.
and then Cory.
And then, Chief Yance, would you have a suggestion as to who you would want to participate in that as the other NISA member by any chance? If I were to put you on the spot right now? Well, no, I would like,
Oh, you meant
I would
as far
like,
as
I would
another
like,
NISA.
Councilman Bizzard, Councilman Weiss, just because they have familiarity being first responders, and especially with Councilman Weiss being emergency management for Ingham County. And so I would be looking for a third, and you're already our NISA board member, so you're already at the table for NISA board, so I didn't know if one of you three gentlemen would want to participate on that.
It's not a definite.
It's not, yeah, but that's my
So
thought
let us
process.
think about it.
Okay, we'll come back and maybe have that on our next, council meeting, agenda.
So again, you would have 3 city council, 2
Two NISA and city
Cory,
manager.
chief, and then
You were asking who we want from the NISA board, if we want another individual
Yeah,
from there.
so maybe by our next council meeting, if you have a recommendation, and then we can have that on our agenda. And then, like I said, that I think will help, move this along. Very quickly, I just want to let the public know that we do have some vacancies available on our boards at the city, so if you have interest in serving the community, you can see those boards on our city website, and if you have questions, you can certainly call City Hall, and I would also be happy to answer questions too. So, with those appointments, renewals for our boards for 2019, I'm looking for a motion to put that forward.
Sandy has a question
Okay.
on your structure of
Yes.
the work committee.
Yes, okay, yes,
You want 2 from NISA?
yeah,
Okay, why wouldn't I qualify?
because, well, you're on the NISA board, I mean, because then if we have 4 council members, or, well, then
I
that's,
wouldn't represent, okay.
I'm
You
just,
mean I'm representing the city on the board?
yes, you're already representing the city on the board, so this is a working committee,
Subcommittee.
but,
They have to report to you then.
yeah, basically, yeah, because you are our spokesperson to the NISA board, so moving that forward and everything, right?
Yeah, I still want to be part of it.
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
okay, so let's just make sure that that's gonna be okay, for our next, council.
You're rolling your eyes, Mr. Attorney.
Just the notion of having 4 members of city council at
At
a
one
particular meeting, although you
Right.
would be there in a different capacity,
Right,
but it's just a consideration to
Okay.
keep in mind.
okay, let's see if we can work through that and figure it out for our next meeting then, just to make sure that, those seats would work. So, moving forward then, for the actual regular city council appointments, I'm looking for a motion to carry that forward with the recommendations that I made.
So,
Thank you,
And I'll support it.
thank you, Holly?
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Walton,
yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Bizzard,
Yes.
Bellinger.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Now we have the adoption of resolution of council priorities for the 2019-2020 calendar years. And Cory, thank you so much for putting this together, and it's a lot of detail and I love it.
Good.
So thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for Cory regarding the table that he put together, the timelines, how the priorities came out based on our voting from our work session?
Maybe you might want to speak to the audience or the camera stating what happened.
Yeah, so I was gonna, work on it with Cory, but, we had a work session, goal session, meeting before the end of the year, or no, was it before the end of the year? Yeah, before
Christmas.
Yes, just before Christmas, and we wanted to put our ideas out there on what we wanted city staff to work on, what we felt, were important goals for the city, regarding infrastructure, different priority areas, and Cory was able to take all of our ideas, we categorized them, we voted on them, and he came up with a high, medium, low categories based on the discussion from that goal-setting session. And what Cory has put together has been a great tracking table for the priorities. And we will work on those during our council sessions, but there's a lot on here, so I'm not going to go through the whole table, but we asked him to categorize them for us, and now we're gonna adopt a resolution regarding it. So how's that sound, Corey?
Perfect.
Okay, great. How did you know? Thanks. So, I'll just go ahead and read this. On the agenda is a resolution that would formally approve the priority areas as determined by City Council for the 2019-20 calendar years. And the priority areas are listed as a high, medium, and low categories based on the selections that we made during that goal-setting session. So I'm looking for a motion then to move this resolution forward.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution adopting the city council priorities for 2019 through 2020.
Second.
And did anybody have any specific questions regarding what Corey has put together for us? Did anything jump out at anyone, or are we good moving that forward?
I think you did a really good job putting it together.
Okay, great.
It'd be interesting to see, Corey, how many deadlines you actually put on time.
And because,
Your name's on here an awful lot.
yeah, right, Corey's got a big list. Let me ask you this, Corey, because we're passing this resolution this evening, is this something that we would want to make this a public document so we can be transparent with our citizens, so they can see what we're working on?
Yeah, so to answer that question, to the extent that the council packets are public, I think that's where it will be included at. And right in the resolution, it says that we'll report on this quarterly. So, you know, I envision that after March 31st, that next council meeting, we'll put the table back in there with any updates. And that's how we'll try to keep everybody accountable for the results.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
Holly? Oh, yes, please.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Walton,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Bizzard,
Yes.
Bellinger,
Yes.
Rhines.
Yes.
Excellent. All right, moving forward, we did receive a boards and commission application from Emily Sutton-Smith, who is with our Williamston Theater, asking to be added to our art committee with a term to expire 9/30/19. So I'm looking for a motion on that, please.
Real quick, if this is appointed, how many does that give us for the art? 7 now, and it's both? Okay.
Who's our art committee now?
Holly, who do we have on our art committee?
You.
Yes. Matt Mumford.
Matt Mulford, Will Long.
Yep. Barb Monat.
I don't need them all, but what are they, what
Oh,
is the,
okay.
what is the
Sure.
object of it?
The charge of the committee?
When the council adopted the art policy in August, it says that they're gonna have a committee to review any art that comes into the city.
Or any ideas for art?
Statues or ideas.
Oh,
but we're
statues
also-
and stuff, yeah,
Public
that's where it
art
was
display.
confused.
Public art, yeah. Mhm.
Public
Like
art.
what?
Public art.
Display?
It's like a big old statue out there.
Oh, good, we're
Or-
gonna get rid of that drunk guy?
Yeah, not on this.
No, but additions to beautify our city through art.
And
Expressions of
We're
art.
gonna be working, on getting a grant
Yeah.
next year to lead.
Yeah.
Putting some art in the city.
Yeah, I think it's,
So do we
It's a
have
fun committee.
Real quick, do we have a member that's on the Parks and Rec board as well? I'm just thinking, because we do have those statues that are in the park, and maybe that's something we overlooked.
we could always have like a joint
Right.
meeting or something, or have the art chair meet with the Parks and Rec and ask them if they have any concerns or questions or needs. All right, so I'm looking for a motion to move this appointment forward.
So moved.
Okay,
I'll support it.
all right. Yes,
You should
Tim.
specify the term.
Oh, yes, please.
Wait, I gotta find it first.
See.
First reading,
Nope, nope, one above it, right here, this one, appointment.
I told you, I can't see it. Appointment of Emily Sutton-Smith to the art committee for a term to expire 9/30/19.
Thank you, Sandy.
And I supported it.
All right, thank you. Roll call, Holly.
Walton,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Bizzard,
Yes.
Bellinger,
Yes.
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy.
Yes. All right, next we have our first reading of the ordinance for the principal and special land uses permitted within the I-1 district. And we do have Councilman Bizzard, Councilman Bellinger that are our planning commission representatives and alternates. So, and I was there, I've been there for 2 years talking about this, so. What this is going to allow us to do is to be more thinking out of the box, open-minded, be very inviting for anybody that would want to build on those parcels out at the interchange off of the 96 exit, or in the established industrial park. And I know Councilman Bizzard, you and I spoke
In the
earlier.
I-1, that's gonna be
Yeah,
in the
the
industrial park.
Yep.
Property's pretty much, that's the only I-1 area.
Yeah. So if you could just elaborate a little bit on
Well,
why we made a change.
The changes
to
we
this.
made were pretty much directed to the special use permit. Let me see if I can find it here. Read it word for word here. I don't remember what was there, special use. We added,
We added,
it was, yep,
was it the zero, was it the? Yep.
yep, sorry.
Yep.
First page, which would be bank or financial institution, and the other one was on office.
Mhm.
So the problem we were having was with the lot sizes in the industrial park was very limiting to what somebody can come in and develop there. This would open it up to more of a, what's the word I want to use?
User-friendly.
User-friendly,
Yeah.
office type space.
Yeah, because I believe in the original definition, it had research and development,
Right.
not necessarily office as a primary use. So by loosening up the language a little bit or allowing these special uses, that makes it a little bit more inviting for somebody that might want to build just an office building, but not have any ties to like a research designer or something like that.
We don't have very many R1 available, do we? I mean, when I can remember, there's not
I-1.
R1,
I-1?
I'm sorry, and
Oh, how many parcels do we have, Corey?
parcels.
It's essentially the vacant parcels in the industrial park,
Yeah.
and then there's a single parcel on the east end of town.
Yep.
Those are the only areas.
But we have the potential for probably how many?
At the industrial park, there
Yeah.
wouldn't be
New-
that
new.
many, is there?
There's 3 large parcels, but the real estate firm that's marketing those markets them as smaller lots. And so they're envisioning that somebody would
Divvying
sub it
them out.
Yes.
Yeah. So. And we have had inquiries, and this kind of prompted the discussion regarding this was, you know, how can we make it more appealing to somebody that's out there looking possibly to do new construction and build out there,
I
so.
believe we had somebody who already is a resident out there say, you know, they're the only ones out there.
Yeah.
Kinda looking why.
We'd like to have neighbors.
Right.
So with this being the first reading, I'm looking for a motion to move this forward so that we can have it on our next council agenda for second reading.
And I'd like to note, those were the only 2 changes, which was the special use, the bank and financial industrial and office space.
Yes, Tim?
There was
There was another one?
a second, the last page
Oh.
has some slight wording, and again,
Oh,
we're actually amending 2 separate provisions.
support commercial and industrial districts.
Yep,
So
okay, so,
statement of purpose.
yeah, it strikes out in there and it says, are supportive of commercial and industrial districts, and it's in red. And that's on page 8D,
Mhm.
and then under special use it listed again.
Office use and
And
financial.
financial.
All right. Who would like to make that motion?
Sure, John would like
All right.
Sure, I will make the motion to, I got it right there.
Mhm.
The first reading of the ordinance of principal and special land use permitted within the I-1 district.
Thank you.
And I'll support it.
All right. Holly, can you call the roll, please?
Hall,
Yes.
Bizzard,
Yes.
Bellinger,
Yes.
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Okay, our next item is to set the public hearing for the Park Master Plan for the January 28, 2019 at 7:05 PM. And Corey, you were able to give us some information in here as well. Any questions with what Corey gave us? No? Okay. Alrighty, well then, if there's.
We need to make a motion, right?
Yep.
Make a motion to set the public hearing for the Parks Master Plan, January 28th, 2019 at 7:05 p.m.
Alright. Do you have a question, Dan?
No, I was
Okay,
just-
you were gonna make a motion, okay, alright, you do that. Alright, Holly, can you call the roll, please?
Bizzard,
Yes.
Bellinger,
Yes.
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Walton, Paul.
Yes.
Alright, our last action item for the evening is the redevelopment ready communities resolution, which Corey has given us information on with the self-evaluation forms in there. Does anybody have any questions? We've kind of been working on this whole redevelopment ready from a staffing perspective. We've done the training, and now Corey's kind of helping move this ball down the field a little bit more. So, questions?
This is kind of a new deal for me. We haven't, I don't think it's come up much since I've been on, maybe it has, but this is basically, the MEDC is one of the major grant writers.
Funding sources,
Grant funding sources.
Yep.
And in order for us to continue being able to apply for those grants, we need to comply with the, or
We need to participate.
participate in this. Is that?
That's exactly right.
Yep.
All right.
If we want money.
Yep, that was, wanted to make sure I.
Does anybody have any specific questions?
No, so I'll make a motion to approve the resolution authorizing the city of Williamston to participate in the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, MEDC, redevelopment ready commission program.
Second.
Great. All right, if there's no other questions regarding this, I'll ask Holly to call the roll.
Bellinger,
Yes.
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Walton. Yes. Paul,
Yes.
Bizzard.
Yes.
Excellent. That concludes our action items for this evening. We do not have any discussion items on our agenda. We did receive the NISA agenda for the January 10th, 2019 meeting. So I will move straight through to department head reports, and we did receive Corey's memo regarding what he's been working on. Do we have any questions for him? Or is there anything you want to elaborate on, Corey?
Nothing further.
Okay, all right, right down to chief. Hi, happy New Year.
Thank you. I have nothing to report.
I love that smile, that's great, thank you. All right, Rachel is not here, but she did provide us with her financial and investment quarterly report for the end date of December 31st, 2018. If you do have any questions regarding this, you certainly can get a hold of Rachel, but basically in her report, she did state that she is not recommending any budget amendments at this time. She will closely monitor the accounts on a monthly basis, and as always, Rachel is very just amazing with what she does for the city. So I'm sure if there's something that she'll need to bring forward, she will bring it to our attention. And now we have Scott. You've been sitting over there quiet.
Well, I asked to have something just so that we can bring public's attention to the
Yes.
fact that our project on South Mullet and East Middle, everything's coming together. There is a, for the crowd here, there is a public open house on January 21st, which is next Monday, for people within the affected area to come in, take a look at the plans, we can answer questions, go over things with you. Mailers did go out at the end of last week, so people in the affected area, not just in the construction itself, but also the detour routing, were given a pamphlet to explain the project. There's a letter that's gone to some people that are impacted by some tree removals by the front of their house, as well as there are some easements that we need for temporary grading, where the surveyors and the engineer on the project has determined that there's some existing sidewalks that are actually outside of the right-of-way. So as a part of the project, we're going to move the sidewalks inside the right-of-way where they're supposed to be, but that requires us to get these permits, temporary easements basically, from the homeowners. And so all those mailings went out, people got a bunch in the mail over the weekend, and
And again, it's gonna be Monday night, 21st, at what time?
Monday night from, we're starting at 4:30, we're going to 6:30. If somebody really has a problem, contact me and we'll work out, coming to see you at your house or an alternate time, whatever, so.
That would be here at City Hall.
It'll be here at City Hall.
All right.
And this is all of Mullet Street?
This is South Mullet Street, which is between Middle and Grand River Avenue.
Yep.
And then Middle Street is from where the 2017 project left off at Crosman, going to the corner where Middle Street is at.
Stops in the slum area.
All right,
By the way, I got one of those letters.
you did, good.
They were, well, yeah, because I'm there.
Yeah.
Very thorough, very, very good. Thank you, Scott.
So that was what I wanted to report tonight.
Well, thank you, Scott, appreciate it. All right, you will see on here now that we have number 12, which is committee and subcommittee reports. Corey and I talked about this, and I would really like for us to be more transparent this year at our council meetings. So what I'm asking is each council member, after you have attended your respective board that you are assigned to, I would like you to give our public an update, because we don't televise those meetings. Those minutes are available on our city website, and I think that we do have some boards that meet, that all of our boards are important, but like, for instance, with planning and things that are moving forward with that, or Parks and Rec with park projects, or DDA, I'd like for us to be able to report out to our community. So it would you don't have to provide a written report, I'm looking for a verbal, just so that our viewing audience out there knows what's happening in the city, other than just what's going on when they watch us here at council. Okay? So that's just something for y'all to think about. Again, it's time for audience participation, and there's nobody out there. Well, there is a gentleman here in the audience. Would you like to say hello or speak to us? Or?
Well, I'll be speaking with you momentarily. I'm Matt Northfjord. I'm your labor attorney.
All right, great. Good to see you here, Matt. Just didn't want to leave you out. I feel like every time I say that there's nobody in the audience, that's really not a true statement. I'm going to move straight along now to council member comments, and I will start with Councilman Rhines to my left.
No comments.
All right, Councilman Bizzard,
I have no comments.
Councilman Walton, Belger,
I'm good.
Paul.
Wow.
All we done is-
Just briefly, I think it's pretty neat. Wayne State got nearly $1 million grant, and we had a meeting, preliminary meeting about the microplastics, the pollution problem. And there's 2 communities that are going to be part of the study, Pontiac and Williamston. And a lot of stuff that we really don't know, but it's kind of nice to be included in that. I think it'll be very educational, and we'll be reporting back. So.
Great, excellent, thank you. I have no comments either, except Happy New Year. The snow has really not shown up here in the city, but it's gonna come, so just be prepared. Remember that you do have to clean your sidewalks off. Less than 4 inches of snow within 24 hours, anything more than 4 inches of snow within 48 hours, correct? And then also no parking on the streets for snow removal purposes. But other than that, Happy New Year. 2019's here, and we're gonna roll up our sleeves and be hard at work for our community. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and close us out of open session. Oh, no, motion to go out of open session into closed session,
So
please.
moved.
Thank you.
You also have to.
Announce
state
what
the
it's
reason.
for. Okay, you have to read it. Sorry. Or Noah could. He's next to you.
I move we go into a closed section regarding the Capital City Labor Program Incorporated union negotiations.
Thank you, Sandy. Do you have support? All right, all those in favor?
Do
A roll call. We haven't done closed session in so long. Roll call, Holly.
Bizzard,
Yes.
Bellinger,
Yes.
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Hall,
Yeah.
Welton.
Yes.
Go back into open session at 7:50 p.m. All right. And we're going to go ahead and I'm looking for a motion on action from our closed session.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion for our action on the closed session I move to ratify a tentative agreement between the city of Williamston and the CCLP bargaining unit reached on December 17th, 2018, and authorize the mayor to sign the new collective bargaining agreement upon review and approval of the Labor Council.
Second.
All right, Holly?
Bellinger,
Yes.
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Walton,
Yes.
Bizzard.
Yes.
All right, thank you, council members, and now I am looking for a motion to adjourn for this evening.
I make a motion we adjourn for this evening.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.